Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to Angus Activity. This is a short activity that'll review creating separations from spot colors. It's short, but it's very important. You're going to work with a supplied file that I give you, and you're going to convert the colors to both spot color and 100% K of black. It's just a two-color logo that we worked with. And you're going to open it up first in Illustrator. The file is in RGB mode, and the first thing you're going to want to do is go to File, Document Color Mode, and change it to CMYK color. Also, one of the other first things you're going to want to do is save it with your last name. So I'm going to save this and just put my last name at the end. Just in case I screw it up terribly, I can go back to the original. So I'll save that as my AI file. And I'll just hit OK for all the options. So this file right now, if I check out the colors, if I look at the color palette, I could see that the stroke has a black with a whole mix of CMYK colors in it. If I look at the fill, it's a CMYK red that's in here. You can see the magenta and yellow are up real high. The cyan and black are down real low. So it's kind of a mix of yellow and magenta that make up the red color, but it's not a spot color, and we want to make a spot color for this, so it prints out on a separate plate, and it's our own specific color. And after converting this to CMYK, even the blacks we want to make sure are going to be one solid color. So what we're going to do with the blacks is go over to the Swatches palette, and there's our black right there, our main black that we're using, and we're just going to convert that by just double clicking on it, and it just says black. And you could check this global button there. That means that everything that has black applied will change when you change this color. You shouldn't have to do anything else with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide my sliders down, my CMY sliders down, and put my K slider up to 100. So that's the way I want black to be for a spot. That's a spot color black, 100% K, and no ingredients of the CMY in here. So I'll hit OK. Now I didn't apply that yet. What I want to do is first, I'll zoom into this a little bit so I can see this a little better. Now, one thing just to be aware of, these crop marks that are here, these things are actually registration color. You'll see that little kind of bullseye there. That's a registration color. That means they'll show up on any plate. They'll show up on CMYK plates. They'll show up on spot color plates, because you wouldn't want to have, if you're using those trim marks for anything, you wouldn't want them not appearing. So they'll appear on every plate. You don't want to have to keep changing them and making them red or making them black or any other color. So that's what they are. Now the black that we have here, I'm going to click on the Angus text, and you could see it highlighted right now. The stroke kind of straddles the actual path line, and that color that I'm using, if I click on my stroke color down here, the stroke is in the back. I'll bring that to the front. You could see that it's actually a CMYK color that's here right now, and I actually want to apply it from Swatches and use this color. Now before I do that, one thing I want to make sure I do, and also if you apply it right from Swatches and not from down here, make sure that the stroke is in the front. But one thing I also want to do here, you can see it's using that color, but we want to make it be this color up here. What we're also going to do is make sure all our black strokes take this color. So to do that, we can go select, and we're going to go same. We're going to go select, same, and then stroke color, and it'll select all the objects with that stroke. Now it looks like it's not getting the black stroke, but it actually is. So it's getting that black stroke, just strokes. And what we're going to do is just click on our black and apply that color. So now if we went on here and we went to our color palette, you could see it's the 100% K black, and that's what we want. And while we're doing this, we also want to go here and make sure that this is 100% black. Now it's showing white right now because it's showing a stroke on it. So I want to make sure that I click on the stroke color here, and instead of changing these sliders, again, what I'm going to do is just go to my Swatches and just click on this, or you can also go over here and just select it there. This is a little easier to make sure you get the stroke and fill correct, so you could go over here and apply that swatch. So I know that that's the solid black with 100% K, and also I'm going to click on this steakhouse one and make sure that is. If you're not sure, look at the color and you can see that's a mix as well. So I'll go over here to the fill, and I'll choose that black. So all my black fills, at least from what I have here, look like they're getting that black. Now we're also going to use a PMS red, which we don't have so far. And the next thing I'm going to do, and this may be out of order on your instructions, but I'm going to go to Window, and I'm going to go down to Swatch Libraries. This is where we import a PMS color. And I'm going to go to Color Books, and then also to Pantone Solid Uncoated. And you could use coated or uncoated. We'll use uncoated right now. And the color I'm going to look for now, when this palette comes up, you know, I have it kind of stretched out, but you could make it might come up shorter. If you're seeing it some other way, if you don't see this fine field, this little options thing here, if you put show fine field and then small list view, it should look like this. I like seeing all the names and the little swatches next to it, so it's actually showing the color I want right now. But if you had a search, if you just typed in 185 real fast, it'll jump to the color that you want, and here it is down here. Here's the 185 that we want to use. Now it has it selected, but what you want to do is click on it, and if you click on it, it'll get added to your palette. Now I'm actually going to undo that because I had my artwork still selected, so let me make sure that I don't have any artwork selected, and now I'll click on this again, and now it just gets added to my swatches. There it is. It has a little dot indicating it's a spot color, and that white label indicates that it's global, meaning that if you make changes to the color, anything that has that color will be updated. Now once you add that color to your swatches, to your personal swatches for that document, you don't need this anymore, so you could close that up. So then I'll just click on this fill, and I'll apply this fill color, and if you want to make sure you're getting the fill color, do it from up here, and that's it. And you can see it looks a little paler on screen because it's a print color, but that's all you need to do to apply those colors. So we now, as far as we know, now to double check this, let me save it. Now to double check it, one thing you could do, now this may be a little different depending on the kind of printer you have installed, because this requires a PostScript printer, and we'll see how this works out. But I'm going to go File Print. Now if I go to File Print, here at home I have this Brother printer, and if I go to Output, it doesn't let me choose. This is where you would choose separations, and I can't do them right here because I have this Brother printer. So you may have the same issue at home. When we have PostScript printers at school, it'll allow us to print separations. But what I'm going to do, if you have this option, I'm going to choose Adobe PostScript file, and it's not actually a printer, but it'll save a PostScript file. That's why it says save down here, not print. And I'm actually, again, over at Output, and Composite just means it prints out the color version. But if I change this to separations, it'll actually show me separations, and if you did these correctly, you won't see any other colors. You won't see any cyan, magenta, or yellow. If you had a black that somehow had a process color in it, just for example, if this color was the original black fill, which I think had all these process colors in, what would happen is when you'd go to print separations, if you go to File Print, and then again I choose the Adobe PostScript file, which I think should be installed when you install Illustrator, or you might even have a PDF kind of installer in there. But if I did that, if I changed the printer to Adobe PostScript file and I went to Output, and I went to Separations, you'd see now I have printers next to all these things because I have a process color in there. So that's kind of a signal to you that you don't have your separations, that there's still some cyan, magenta, and yellow in there. So I'm going to cancel that, and I'll put this back to the fill that it was, which was this one that had just the 100% K. Now, to create separations, even if you don't have a PostScript printer, you could just go File Print, and you're going to go to Output, and also make sure that this is set to Adobe PostScript file, and there's a Save button down here. Also, the mode, you're going to change from Composite to Separations, host-based, and it should have the black and it should have Pantone. Now, you could do these one at a time, save a black one and save a red one, or you could do them all at one time. Now, the one issue you may have is if you're on Windows, it's really hard to open up a PostScript file and look at it. For me to open it up, they actually open up in Preview on a Mac, and it'll show me as 2 pages. It'll show me a black separation and a red separation. And I'll show you what that looks like. But first I'll just hit Save, and I'll save this in the same folder that I'm working. And I just have these loose in here, and it's Angus activity, and it's making a .ps, and I'll hit Save, and it should have made the separations. Now to look at it, again, it may be hard to do this on Windows, but to look at it for me, if I go to the PS file and I actually open it in Preview, which is like a PDF application that views PDF files and images on a Mac, if I open it in here, what it'll do, hopefully, is show me there's my black separation, and here's my red separation. This is the red color, And that's the way separations appear. They're black and white. They don't appear in color because they're used to make plates. Now, one thing, as I look at this, I realize I forgot to mention, and it's not a big deal, but it's something that I just want you to be aware of, is that on this file here, when I clicked all these strokes, and I'll go back here and select all the strokes, and I could do that by going Select, Same, and I'll do Stroke Color, and I'll just select all the same stroke colors. One thing I forgot to do when I changed it to black was under Window Attributes. If I go to Attributes, and what I want to do is I want to check Overprint Stroke, and you're not going to see much here, but what this does by making the black color be overprint stroke is it'll actually make this black overlap over the red ever so slightly, because whenever there's a situation when you have a color and another two colors, red and black, and they touch and they're spot colors, meaning they're each just a solid color, if they're the tiniest bit off when they get printed, you'll get a white gap in between them if they don't line up correctly. If these crop marks or trim marks don't line up, there'll be a gap in between them. So what they do sometimes, and this goes for screen printing or printing on paper, is they do something called trapping. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to see it on here, but if I go to View Overprint Preview and I zoom in, it should maybe, I have to zoom in really tight. I don't know if you probably can't see this on the video, but it'll look a little darker on this area here and a little lighter here. And what that means is, what trapping does is it prints black, because normally they knock out, and whatever red would knock out and black would knock out, and they'd be right sharing the same line. But what this does, what trapping does, and by overprinting stroke, the black stroke kind of overprints the red ever so slightly, and I don't know if you can see that. It's really close in here on this line. You might see it be a little darker. You would see it if there was different colors, like if you had yellow and blue, you'd see almost like a green color show up here. And the idea is you're not supposed to see it, but it's supposed to protect so that if when this gets printed, if they move slightly, there'll be a slight bit of overlap that'll keep it from getting like a white gap in there. And that's called trapping. If you ever heard the term trapping, that's what it does. Usually printers will take care of that, but you should at least be aware of what that does and how it works if you ever have to do anything for screen printing. Or if printers ever talk to you about trapping, just so you know what they're talking about, it's that trapping is basically the overlap of colors to prevent any any white space showing. And it's typically needed for spot colors because they're single inks. Process colors, it's not required as much, because even if they don't line up, you'll see little dots of cyan or magenta or something in between. So it's something that you'll see with screen printing and with spot color printing. So just to be aware of that. So you can also do that when you set up your black stroke on that. That's called trapping. You're not going to see anything different if it's a very small amount. When I zoom back here, it's such a small amount, you're not really going to see it when you print out your separations. Sometimes you could exaggerate them when you print out separations and hold them in front of a window and you can see where they overlap. So that's about it. You're just going to save this one, your Angus activity with your last name, and you could save that other PS file. You could put those both in your Dropbox folder and just upload them.